let me let y'all in on a secret. If any secret society, organization, or any level has come to you, mind you, if any secret society or secret order has come to you, you got what it takes to be rich. Self made. Organizations would not come to you unless you were already that guy or that gal. This is true, and I don't want anybody to overstep their own boundaries and count themselves out of the game. I did this for a bigger portion of my life because early on I was recruited by Masons twice. Uh, Once in the workforce when I was working with my first software company, doing like it was like customer service. It was call center stuff though, but the guy had he had a brokerage firm that he created a side business off of based on who he was the former employer of. Long story short though, that original employer did buy him back out. So, but in either case, at that time there was a not an entered apprentice, but a fellow craft who used to who was trying to recruit me at the time, and he was young. He was like 24, 25, had a couple of pieces of property, all of that good stuff. I'll keep his name and his identity unknown. But he was there, and I would see stuff that I realize now. He would always stand at those right angles. He would always have like the pant leg up in the summer, and he would always be asking me like very, very targeted questions. But because I am who I am and I was who I was, we was just building like master builders. And I guess based on what I knew and the way I carried myself, he was like, yo, you might want to come. Matter of fact, 3 times, because I had another person advertise. So that's 3 times. That's one for each branch. Entered, apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Now, my grandfather was a master mason on my father's side. He was a master mason. When we had his funeral, he was buried with the purple apron and the swords. And when I used to go over there, he used to let me study the Masonic monitor. He didn't recruit me though, so I'm not attached to any of whatever kind of stigmas they talk about that come with that. You know what I mean? You see it all over the internet about who they are, what they serve, how they get down. So needless to say, I never joined a frat. Some probably go to my page. Super T Sigma, he's got to be part of those guys. Ain't he one of the Divine Nine? Is he? Nah, I didn't take none of that. You know what I mean? And that's honest. But it wasn't because, I knew what I knew now. This stuff wasn't on the internet or exposed. I didn't know what Freemasonry was. I just knew that I was good because I felt like, look, I was making enough money at the software company, at the brokerage firm. But it used to nag at me, and still to this day it does. Like those frats that I could have joined, I see their money. Like a lot of my peers are millionaires who stayed on that track and like went that way. You know what I mean? And I would have been there, and I ain't got millions now. And I'm like, man, I threw away all kinds of bags not joining these organizations that recruited me. But it is what it is. I'm going to get it this way. Now you hear all the way at the superstar level. There's friction with it, and it turned out not to be what it is. And there's a whole bunch of secrets. I don't really want to be a part of nothing that I got to keep secrets about. You know what I'm saying? We might not be revealing our earnings income statement on a live or anything like that, but if necessary, it'll be done proudly and shamelessly. But essentially, nah, we're not. And I thought, that I was for the money, because like, I figured like based on like what kind of employee I was at every job, being there for like 3-4 years, no call outs, no tardies, getting all kind of rewards, having customers call a job like, yo, where's the young man? He was he was special. He changed my life. I never, I'm gonna keep coming back to you guys for as long as that young man is there. I was getting plaques, all kind of stuff, and I was like, dang, I just got the job off the streets. I was just temping. I was like, I was between jobs at the time through a tip agency. You know what I mean? And every time that happened, they would just be like, oh, we want to keep you, make you permanent. I didn't know enough to know that this was a fly-by-night company. I didn't read between the lines at 22, 23, 24 years old. We getting free lunch every day. Order what you want. I didn't I didn't see the whole it's too good to be true, because this was my first office job. I was doing all warehouses and manual labor. Before that, I was moving them boxes. So when I finally got up in that office and I was like, yo, man, look, I typed all of my papers sitting down to get my degree. So can I get paid this way? And so then the majority of the jobs became clerical. And what came with clerical was a whole nother temptation that, a lot of times I wasn't ready for it. And sometimes I'm glad I wasn't ready for, because if I, how they say, if you had a chance to do things over, look, if I had a chance to do things over, I would have made probably much worse decisions about a lot of stuff, because you can't say no on what you know now. How can you go back then and know what you know now? I mean, there's a level to that. That's a whole nother conversation and set of videos. But essentially, I was like, I can make this work. But it used to nag at me though, like all of the money I left on the table, like just however much I would have made, tens of millions. I'm a philanthropist, I'm a social engineer, I'm a psychologist, I'm a preacher, I'm a prophet, a seer, a stellar bar none MC, and a real genuine child of God. A real genuine child of God. You know what I mean? What do I mean by that? A person whose overall and dominant agenda is not only to not harm any, but on any level possible to help, whoever I cross paths with, just make their day brighter. And I think that's divine enough in and of itself. But yeah, so I just wanted to go over that. Like, okay, I'm not here to say whether you should or should not join things, because like I said, the money's probably on the table. But just like they say on the ones that's on the inside, I guess it's not all it's cracked up to be. Like I said, I didn't find that out personally, but I can tell you personally that I've been recruited at least 3 times. No, at least 2 times by Masons. And whoever else is out there. Even now I'm being recruited into certain groups and cults on the low though. But I'm Super T Sigma, because that Sigma just means it don't mean you can't join anybody, but Sigma is the only Greek letter that's outside of the pyramid. We're not talking fraternally or sorority speak, but we're just saying in the Greek alphabet, in the structure of hierarchy, but not limited to fraternities or sororities. So I didn't join anything. And so if you look at it on paper, I have the advantage of being nobody. Nobody. But the beautiful thing is, if you Google anything about me from, 10 years ago, you're gonna, that footage should still be at the top of my own algorithm, where I am preaching before a real congregation on a real first Sunday. You know what I mean? Whether it's up there or not now, I don't know. I haven't checked out the video in years. I only checked it out twice. At the time, somebody I was going to church with recorded it, and the pastor, who's the bishop now, he was raving about it. So I ended up having to preach it twice. Like, it was on a smaller service, and then he was like, nah, man, and he came back, and then I ended up doing it when he was out of town for first Sunday service, which in particular denominations, only ordained ministers will be doing that, like pastors, reverends, deacons, people with big titles. I ain't had no big title. I never got the big title, Just kept it at local minister. No big title, but at the same time, my experience, because I was only a child, um, and by the time I started to go to church, I was like maybe 12, 13, 14. But my trump card was I like to read. I love reading. And so the Bible was another book in the home that I read and was already familiar with before I started to attend church. So that's just how the story went. And that's why I'm so strong about the left hand path and magic, because I found God before I was introduced to Jesus. Yeah, I found God before I was introduced to Jesus because I had a Bible first before I had church. And so I was reading that like I was reading everything else in the house, newspapers, whatever. I just like to read. And with this book, it was kind of different because it felt like magic. When I was doing the stuff that was in the scriptures, it just made you like a grand wizard, like a master sorcerer, and sometimes I used to feel guilty and just not follow some of the scriptures because I felt like I had an unfair advantage. Makes you almost like an apex creature. And I didn't like that feeling. I don't want to feel superior to anybody. And, that bothered me. So I kind of slacked. But now as an older and more mature man, for the sake of furthering yourself, to protect your legacy and secure your legacy, I go back and I embrace that energy fully to be the best, to be the elite, to be the top, to be the greatest, to really submit myself. It gave my ego a place because outside of that, I'm like, I don't want anything for myself. I'm surviving. I'm alive. That's anything else beyond that for me is a beautiful bonus. But when I consider, those who depend on me, rely on me, it gives ego a place. It's like, nah, man, I'm about to get it for them. I'm going to make the biggest hunt. I'm going to make the biggest kill for them. I got to, because I want to make one kill that's going to feed them for a century. You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking like that for myself. Now for myself, I'm like, man, I ain't hunting nothing, man. It's peanut butter and jelly, man, and ramen. But when you consider your family, you don't want them to be limited to that. You want them to be able to eat filet mignon if they want, or whatever. You want them to have options. Like, you want to take it out, yeah, you don't like what daddy cooked, you know what I mean? Like, you want to at least give them the chance to make that choice. Don't just leave them stuck with McDonald's. Brothers, sisters, or bro and sis, or they. I'm gonna keep including the pronouns. You could say, you could call it sell out all you want. I'm acknowledging what's there. I'm not telling you whether or not I believe in something. This is just being modern and current. But again, Super T Sigma programming. Y'all just continue to learn and grow. All right. Peace.